Hey there, welcome to the Fit, Healthy, and Most of All Happy podcast. I am your coach and host, KG, and I'm here with
his co-coach and co-host, Jay Wilkes, in the house. Thanks for tuning in. As always, we have an incredible episode today. I get this question from clients, friends, everyone. It can seem impossible to get in an adequate amount of protein. Perhaps you went out there, you bought protein powders, mass gainers, you eat chicken breasts so you're black and blue, and you're like, how do you do this consistently? Is this sustainable? Is this realistic? These are all excellent questions. And I do find it is a big lifestyle shift going from not caring about your protein to caring about your protein, because it radically changes how you interact and associate with food, your eating habits, your patterns. And we've all been there where we probably think, I eat tons of protein. Then you start tracking your nutrients and you see, oh my gosh, I only get 40 grams a day. It can seem absolutely ridiculous. Even myself, as someone who's 215 pounds, I like to have about 215 pounds or 215 grams of protein a day, and that can seem impossible. But a good example of this and a good thing to consider is protein as a nutrient is only 4 calories per gram. So even with me having a high protein goal, like let's call it 200 for the sake of numbers being easy, it's really easy to look and say, wow, that's actually only 800 calories. And for me, I can cut pretty consistently on about 3,000 calories. So that is less than a third of my calories that only need to be protein. And that leaves me a ton of room for other macronutrients such as carbs or fat. And yes, this might be a little bit harder. Maybe you're a smaller person, maybe you're having 1,200 calories, maybe you're over, like let's say you're 100 pounds. That is still only 400 calories. And you can see how the numbers do add up, and there are absolutely ways to hit this goal. And that is the best practice. It's a higher level protein goal. And generally, we like the gram per body weight because it's the simplest and easiest way to kind of cover your bases, make sure you're eating enough protein to adequately put on more muscle. Protein has numerous other benefits where it's actually the most, it'll sate you more than all the other macronutrients, meaning that it'll be more satisfying. So you'll feel more full longer. It'll actually provide you with more energy, which is fantastic. And it will help you retain more muscle as you diet. So I hope I sold you on why you need a protein goal, why it's doable. And with the same example, you probably heard me say it before, but a 1 hour workout can seem like a lot in your day. That's actually only 4% of your day. So I find one of the biggest things that makes a big difference is understanding that you can do it, really getting in front of it and not just saying, oh, it's absolutely unrealistic for me to hit my protein goal, to have a high protein diet. It's not in the cards for me. Change your mindset and say, I'm going to get it in. We all know someone, it might even be you, says, I have no time to work out. Too busy, work's going on, all these different things. But like I said, when you zoom out and you break it into more manageable goals, I do find it makes it a lot easier. And don't expect to do it overnight. If you've eaten a certain way your whole life, maybe you are overweight, maybe protein has not been a priority whatsoever, don't just expect to naturally be a pro at it, but use these tips and you will become a pro within a matter of weeks. So my first biggest tip too is to really know your goals. So like I said, establish where you want to be. And maybe right now you are only having 30 or 40 grams a day. I wouldn't go from 40 grams a day to right a gram per body weight. Work your way up. Right now, if you're maybe a quarter of a gram per body weight, start with a half, then go to 0.75 and naturally improve that goal as it's realistic for you to hit it, as you use these tools, as you start to change your diet to actually be a reflection of that. So let yourself bridge into it. So whatever your goal is, for me, for instance, if my goal is 200 grams of protein, if I have 5 meals, quite simply, that's about 40 grams of protein per meal. If I have 4 meals, it's about 50. And now here comes some more complex questions that we won't get too into, like how much is digestible, how much is bioavailable, all these different things. Just for now, let's focus on these numbers as a metric of how to best get it in. And maybe in the morning, I only have 30 grams. That just means those meals need to be denser, or I need to have one meal that's more dense with protein. But I just find this helps because generally when I look for a meal source where I'm ordering, I'm going to say, okay, how can I get this 40 grams of protein? What am I going to do to achieve this? And maybe I'll order a side chicken breast, and then I'll get that really fun thing that I want, which is like a pasta with no other meat or protein to it. I can still kind of make that work. But when you have an understanding of where you need to be, it makes it easier, because if instead my first 3 out of 4 meals I have 0 protein in them, it's very unrealistic for me to have one meal with 200 protein. That's not going to feel good. That's not going to be ideal. So just break your big goal into smaller goals and then use the tips Kyle is about to share here, and it's going to be nice and easy. What do you got, Kyle?
honestly Start by getting ahead. This is the number one tip, and this is where I think a lot of people struggle. So even I was talking to someone the other day who is into intermittent fasting, and no problem with that. As long as you hit your calories, your protein, all that great stuff, go for it. If it's not going to be magical, it's not going to change the game exactly, but it can help keep your calories down. Now, the thing that we were talking about was they are struggling with hitting their protein intake, and obviously you're saving your calories till later. You're going to probably grab a bunch of random stuff, and protein is going to be very hard to get into that window. So long story short is I am such a believer, especially when it comes to breakfast, which, essentially means breaking your fast. So in the morning, I will always start with a similar breakfast. Today I was on the go. I grabbed a smoothie. I don't usually do it. I've been having Greek yogurt, but the goal is to get at least 40 grams of protein with every single breakfast. And the truth is, if it's not protein dense, I don't want it. Like if someone were to offer me a croissant with a side of bread and maybe jam. Like I don't care for it. It sounds tasty, and I'm sure it is. But the thing is, like, I'm so focused on being consistent with my protein, and especially I have found, and I've been guilty of this, like in the past on, let's say, a Sunday where I decide to switch it up and I don't hit my protein. It can lead to a lot of bad habits afterwards because you are going to be craving more unhealthy foods. You also are going to be just consistently behind schedule on your protein. Like if you start with, and I see a lot of people starting their day with just very, very low protein foods, you're going to have to play catch up. You may just give up, honestly, because you're so far behind. And that's why every single breakfast I'm focused on it. And I just think it's the best way to allow momentum to compound. And kind of jumping into my second thing here, is just having high protein foods available at home is absolutely game changing, especially if you do have, just your willpower is drained, or you just kind of need to grab random things and life is busy and you're on calls, you have to take care of your kids. If you have a ton of junk and a ton of snacks, you'll probably grab that. For me, I just ordered a couple boxes of Quest chips recently, and it's just been great because anytime I have an afternoon, just not even craving, but I just want something, I'll either grab carrots or I'll grab that. And it's just been super helpful, obviously for health reasons, but of course to get my protein up for the Quest chips. And that's going to be honestly one of my biggest tips, especially because sometimes it can be hard to stock up when you just don't really know what to look for. We are going to talk about our top high protein snacks afterwards, but I do really feel like these are the components where a lot of people fail. And I really like what Josh said the other day on the Monday episode. He said most people don't hit their protein by accident. And I think that's where like so many people struggle when I have this conversation, is like they don't really pay attention to it. And once again, carbs and fats are so easily accessible. Like if you go into a restaurant, if you go into the grocery store, you have to try pretty hard to find protein. Of course, you go into the meat section, you'll be fine to find it. But I'd say for the most part, like most menus and also just most stores, like the majority of it is going to be filled with carbs and fats and whatnot. So I like how he said you don't hit your protein by accident, because you really do have to spend time thinking and surrounding each meal with protein. So like the first thing I'm looking at if I'm going out to eat is like, where's the protein coming from? And then it'll allow me to build the menu. When we go to lunch and we're just on the go and we need to grab something, it's like, what's going to be high in protein? So when you make this shift, instead of thinking like, I'm just going to grab whatever is quick and easy, to like, what's going to be the highest protein, but also be the healthiest, like that's such a big difference. And a lot of it comes down to pre-logging. If you're someone that is, new to this and you're just not eating a lot of the same stuff like we, for the most part, are sitting there and actually plugging it into MyFitnessPal, thinking ahead, allowing yourself to just be proactive versus reactive, and just planning ahead will help you in so many different ways. So yeah, that's some of the biggest tips, and hopefully that helps you in some way or another.
Yeah, as you change your attitude and adapt and adjust and really make it that priority, using these tips, even pre-logging, like tentatively stapling in the protein options that are going to be most effective for you, you will find it's a lot better. So to use an actionable example of my day in my life, my breakfast, I'll do my Greek yogurt, or I'll swap that out for like Kodiak cakes, which are pretty high in protein, but a little bit less. So if I have less there, I'll be aware, okay, for lunch, maybe I need to order double chicken on my burrito bowl, or I need to have an extra side of protein, or my snack that day will need to be very protein dense. And the more you can have these different tools available to fill in those holes and fill in those slots, the easier it will be. And then even changing the attitude too of making that a priority. In general, like the more you can start with it and make it the focus of the meal, you can still enjoy the things you love. Like if you start by eating chocolate, you're gonna eat a lot of it. You're gonna overeat it. Then you're gonna try, you're gonna be like, oh shoot, I'm behind. And then you're gonna be like, I have no room for protein. Whereas if you had like a nice lean piece of meat for dinner with a bunch of veggies, then maybe you had a bit of carbs, you'd still have a little bit of room for chocolate. You'd enjoy the chocolate and you'd be like, wow, I hit my goals. This wasn't so hard. This wasn't too bad. So just really working on that mindset, being proactive, as I said, not reactive, really getting in front of it, making it a priority of your day. And I guess even just for me, we'll get into some of my top foods and solutions. So as I mentioned, I kind of have my rotating breakfast that works best for me. If I were to go out to like a diner and get a more traditional breakfast, like an omelet and home fries or something like that, I will be behind. And that's not to say that never happens, but when that does, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be hyper involved with what's going on in my day. It's funny Kyle mentioned the croissant because he did get a massive like 1,000-calorie croissant one day. He loved it. It was delicious. And yes, he had to alternate his day a little bit that one day, but he found ways to make it work. And he had, like, we've used the example of protein fasting before, where if you're going out at night and you know you're going to have something that's really carb heavy, really fat heavy, really just starting the day by leaning into that protein. So my Greek yogurt in the morning will have a lot of granola, a lot of seeds, a lot of different things. Some days when I need just protein, I'll just have the Greek yogurt. Yes, it's a little bland. Yes, a little boring. I don't mind it. I'll add some fruit sometimes. And you got to know what kind of person you are and what's reasonable to you. A lot of people don't mind just having 2 scoops of protein in the afternoon just to get in a quick 50 grams. It's totally okay as well. Those are options available. Some people just keep chicken. They'll have it on the side, then they'll go have the meal they really want. Another thing for me, even today, we went to Subway for lunch. We weren't able to go to our normal place. We went for the double ham option. And what was awesome is with me doing that, it was about 70 protein, which is awesome. So it actually got me a little bit ahead. And to my point earlier about that, you can't digest that much. Well, your body will use it. It's not just going to naturally excrete it. There is an optimal way, obviously, by breaking it into smaller portions. But this position of optimization is so small as composed to the total number. People will get so into the semantics of this and they'll ignore the fact that they're not hitting their goal consistently. Start by hitting it consistently, and then you can aim to be a little more intentional about the splitting and the times of days you have it. So that is definitely a note I wanted to make. So for me, my breakfast most often what it is. For lunch, I have my go-to places that are higher in protein. So I love a burrito bowl because you're going to get rice with a ton of veggies and then a meat on top. I always lean to the leaner meats in general because as good as ground beef can be, it is a little bit denser in calories, and I prefer to have more volume of food. So I will get that chicken and or double chicken should I need it. And that's a fantastic solution for me. Shawarma can always be a fantastic option as well for me for that. Yes, you get some carbs with the wrap, but it really just depends on what your goals are. But I've had a lot of success with that as well. Subs can also be a good option because if you stay away from the really bad sauces, they can actually be pretty great protein carb sources, which will be supportive of most people's macronutrient goals. But once again, this is where it's tough because everyone's different. And by using the 80-20 rule, you can blend and adapt to what you like. For dinner, most often, I'll do like a stir fry or some kind of lean protein filled with a really healthy carb and a lot of veggies. That's something I've really enjoyed to just be on top of lately and really made a priority in my day. And I find that does help me a lot with protein. And I actually don't have much protein powder in general because I get most of it from lean meat sources as well as non-lactose dairy sources. So there's a high protein cheese I love called Allegro. I'm able to get a lot of protein from that. And that's been a fantastic hack for me. And that's where perhaps you'll hate everything I just said. That's totally okay. Just do a quick little bit of research. This is something we actively help our clients with. We have like a whole guide, a whole lot of resources we give to our clients. But using these tips, you should be able to kind of construct what works for you, what's realistic, and don't just try to copy and paste what I do. Find what works within your time frame, what you can pack. There's just infinite options. And now we're in a time where marketing is really supportive of protein consumption. So it's a lot easier to find options available. Menus will highlight high in protein and all these different things. But I know Kyle also has some phenomenal suggestions here, so I'm excited to hear those.
Yeah, and by the way, I did say earlier, it's like hard to find, but I do think that it is great. And I love any place that has that highlighted. Like there's some menus now that are actually saying like healthy, high protein options. So I wish everyone would do it. Honestly, I wish like every place would tell you the calories. I guess maybe now some of them have to. I'm not sure the logistics behind that, but also I wish they like all separated it from high protein to make it easier for everyone. But yeah, I mean, that's something we really have tried hard to give every single resource for our clients. So we actually have a fast food guide for anybody who just wants to help out, anybody who wants to understand what to eat on the go and what's a good option. We actually have 53 high protein recipes for all of our clients. So when you come into our program, just know that our goal is to give you everything to be able to hit your protein, to stay on track, to eat healthier, to navigate. And as I'm speaking of this, we do also have like a suggested food list. So we give you a bunch of different great sauce options that are low in calorie. We give you high protein options, carb options, fat options. And in terms of just like the suggestions, and here something to think about, one skinless, boneless chicken breast for 110 calories could be 23 grams of protein. Even like tuna for 100 grams would be 114 calories, 23 grams of protein. Protein bars, if you're on the go, like I wouldn't say you should depend on them, but they can be solid depending on which one you choose. 200 calories for 20 grams of protein. Even egg whites, half of a cup could be 100 calories for 17 grams. So many different things. Skim milk is also potentially solid. 1 cup would be 80 calories with 8 grams of protein. So it's on the lower end, but it can still add up if it fits within your day. Even lean cuts of turkey, 120 calories, 26 grams of protein for 4 ounces. Even fish is a great example. Salmon, tilapia, if you enjoy it. So once again, so many different things. It's more so just about planning it out. And even for myself for dinner, usually I rotate either between turkey burgers. Some I'll have chicken breast with, I've been liking stir fries as well. I'm glad Josh brought that one up. And then what else? Fish is something I try to have maybe once a week. And really all it comes down to is the planning and, finding the things that actually you enjoy. Because if you were to tell someone, hey, just go have scoops of protein and they don't enjoy it and they just feel like it's a chore and you just have to just plug your nose to drink, like it doesn't have to be like that. There are so many enjoyable foods out there that are high in protein. You can flavor it the way you want to, and just really make sure to plan ahead, and I guarantee it can change the game for you for sure.
Yeah, so using these tips, I assure you it's something that you constantly work on and figure out what works best for you. But hitting my protein is never an option. And it's so easy at this point. I understand it can be a challenge originally, but I assure you using these tips, you will get there. And if this episode helped you out a ton, we ask that you could help us out. And the best way to do that is share this with someone who struggles to hit their protein, who has 8 scoops of protein a day that's struggling. We'd love to help them by sharing this information. And if you love our podcast, you love what we're about, what we could ask is it would mean the world if you'd share this podcast, your story. You can do it directly through Apple or Spotify, and tag our Instagram in it so we can give you some love back at Colossus Fit, COLOSSUSFIT. We want to get this information out to more people, and by you sharing it, it'll get some new listeners who are going to get great information and content from us, and we will take fantastic care of them. And whether you got a big audience or not, it really does mean a lot if you do take the time to share this to your story. So we ask that you do this because this episode is jam-packed and super helpful. So thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.